There's an aspect of this budget last night that should change the way we monitor what we hear, see and read during election campaigns. And it's pretty simple. We should not believe a single word that comes from the mouth of a politician. Because during the last campaign, reporters hammered the Prime Minister and Treasurer over whether they would scrap negative gearing and or the discount on capital gains tax. To say that Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers were emphatic is an understatement.
Any changes to negative gearing and capital gains tax?
Yes. How hard is it for the 50th time?
Will you guarantee that you won't touch negative gearing and capital gains tax concessions?
Well, we have no plans to touch or change negative gearing.
Negative gearing is off the table.
Yeah, it's off the table.
With negative gearing, is it really off the agenda or not?
It's off the agenda, Ross. We've made that really clear. We won't be doing the negative gearing policy.
And now we know we were lied to. Why? Mainly because they handed out so many billions of dollars in lollies during the campaign to remain in power that they need to pay some of it back. And the baby boomers have copped it in the neck. Now, you might say, oh, come on, they all lie. It doesn't matter. These are things that will suit us as a nation, plenty of revenue. And that's certainly a widely held opinion. And both sides do it. But I find it repugnant that they break a clear and unambiguous promise so blatantly and so soon after making it. It's not what we should allow political parties to get away with. Integrity must mean something in public office. But according to the Treasurer on the ABC last night, it's almost irrelevant.
Will you first acknowledge the broken promises and then we can talk about why?
Yes, I acknowledge that the government's come to a different view about some really important policy areas. The comments and commitments we made at the election reflected the government's almost singular focus on housing supply. We're maintaining that focus on supply. But the challenge begins there, it doesn't end there with supply. We also need to take these decisive steps, these contentious steps to rebalance the tax system, because the interaction of the housing market and the tax system is locking too many Australians, particularly young Australians, out.
No acknowledgement of broken promises, despite the fact that they are blindingly obvious to everybody watching. Breaking ironclad election promises so blatantly, you must have spent a long time calculating the consequences. When did you decide that the rewards outweighed the risks?
Well, I think it's important to see these changes for the substance of the changes, not the politics of the changes.
There's always politics as well, Treasurer.
Well, this decision was taken in recent weeks. It was taken relatively late in the budget process. And it was taken because we became increasingly of the view that the focus on supply, which is still the main game when it comes to the housing market, was not enough to deal with some of these intergenerational issues in particular when it comes to housing. Now, obviously, we are aware that people who want to defend the current tax arrangements, or they think that the current housing market is working just fine, they will want to focus on this element of it, the political element of it. I understand that. Obviously, that doesn't come as a massive surprise to me. But we're focused on the substantive issue, the substantive change. We've come to a different view on these policy areas. We're explaining to the Australian people why.
You just said recent weeks. The decision to make these major changes to negative gearing, trusts and capital gains was made in recent weeks. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is what I'm saying. The
how many
Expenditure Review Committee finalises the budget in the usual way towards the end of April, sometimes the beginning of May. Obviously, this has involved a fair amount of work, but the decision was taken in recent weeks to make this policy change. And more than deciding this policy change, and the substantive difference that we hope to make, encouraging another 75,000 Australians into the housing market over the next decade.
The silence was telling. Recent weeks. I'm sorry, he and his leader lied through their teeth during the election campaign, and Jim Chalmers there lied again. They're compulsive lies. Scrapping negative gearing didn't suddenly materialise as an idea a couple of weeks ago. He even admitted it involved a fair amount of work. They knew this was a revenue target years ago. They're treating us like dumbos. But here's a question for you. Does it matter? And I'm serious when I ask that. Doesn't it matter when the measure will save taxpayers a stack of money? It'll make the housing crisis worse, despite what they tell us, and the value of homes will only drop by about 2%, big deal. But do you care that they lie as blatantly as that? I definitely think it matters, because what else are they prepared to lie about? It's a calculated lie, of course, calculated on the premise that the opposition are far too weak to translate it into an election defeat for Labor, and calculated on the basis that baby boomers aren't their friends anymore anyhow. I think it stinks, and they should be punished at the ballot box. The trick for voters is don't forget it.